The children are always ours, every single one of them, all over the globe, and I'm beginning to suspect that whoever is incapable of recognizing this may be incapable of morality. What we see in the children is what they have seen in us, or more accurately, perhaps, what they see in us. How am I, for example, to explain to any child how it happens that in a nation so boastfully autonomous as the United States, we are reduced to the present presidential candidates? I certainly do not want them to believe that Trump or Biden are the best people this country can produce. It can be said, of course, and let me say it before you do, that I am speaking as a Black American. No Black citizen of what is left of Harlem supposes that either Trump or Biden has any concern for them except as voters. That is, to put it brutally, except as instruments or dupes. And while one hates to say that Black citizens are right, one can certainly not say that we are wrong. But if we are to change our children's lives and to help them liberate themselves from the jails and hovels, the mortal danger in which our countrymen have placed us, the vote does not appear to be the answer either. It has certainly not been the answer until now. Here one finds oneself on treacherous ground indeed. I am, legally anyway, an adult, a somewhat battered survivor of this hard place, and have never expected my power to vote to have any effect whatever on my life. And it hasn't. Nor can it be denied that the sheer tenacity of the Black people in the South, their grace under pressure, to put it far too mildly, and the simple fact of their presence in the voting booth profoundly challenged, if it did not expose, the obscene supremacist mythology. The American institutions are all bankrupt, in that they are unable to deal with the present. When Americans look out on the world, they see nothing but dark and menacing strangers. And white Americans really do not know what to make of all this, except to increase the defense budget. When the American people, Trump's no longer silent majority, revile the Haitian, Cuban, Turk, Palestinian, Iranian, they are really cursing blackness. And blackness had better know it. The vote does not work for a Black American the way it works for a white one, for the despairingly obvious reason that whites, in general, are welcomed to America, and blacks, in general, are not. Yet risking a seeming contradiction, one may go further and point out that America's egalitarian image is very important to American self-esteem. During even the bloodiest of the worker-industrial clashes, white workers opted for being white first and workers second, and, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, who said that they had to remain workers? It was easy enough to turn the white worker against the Black worker by threatening to put the Black man in the white man's job at a lower salary. Once the white worker had fallen into this trap, the rest was child's play. The Black was locked out of the unions and big business got in bed together, and whenever there was trouble in the ghetto, white America as one person cried, "What does the Negro want?" Billy clubs, tear gas, guns, and cold-blooded murder imposed a sullen order, and a grateful republic went back to sleep. My vote will not get me a job or a home, or help me through school, or prevent another Vietnam or a Third World War, but it may keep me here long enough for me to see and use the turning of the tide. For the tide has got to turn. And since I am not the only Black person to think this way, if Biden is reelected, it will be by means of the Black vote. And it will not be a vote for Carter. It will be a coldly calculated risk, a means of buying time. What the House of Bondage accomplished for what we will call the classic white American was the destruction of their moral sense, except in relation to whites. But it also destroyed his sense of reality, and, therefore, his sense of white people had to be as compulsively one-dimensional as his vision of Black people. And the result is that white Americans have been one another's jailers for generations, and the attempt at individual maturity is the loneliest and rarest of the American endeavors. I am speaking of the breakup, the end, of the so overextended Western Empire. I am thinking of the Black and non-white peoples who are shattering, redefining, and recreating history, making all things new, simply by declaring their presence, by delivering their testimony. The Empire never intended that this testimony should be heard, but if I hold my peace, the very stones will cry out. One can speak, then, of the fall of an empire at that moment when, though all of the paraphernalia of power remain intact and visible and seem to function, neither the citizen subject within the gates nor the indescribable hordes outside it believe in the morality or the reality of the kingdom anymore, when no one any longer anywhere aspires to the empire's standards. This is the charged, the dangerous moment, when everything must be re-examined, must be made new, when nothing at all can be taken for granted. If the British were willing to starve Ireland to death, which they did, in order to protect the profits of British merchants, why would the West be reluctant to starve the global South out of existence? especially since the generation facing famine now is precisely that generation that will begin the real and final liberation of the world from the West. It is, in any case, perfectly clear that the Earth's populations can be fed if, or rather when, we alter our priorities. We can irrigate deserts and feed the entire Earth for the price we are paying to build bombs that we will be able to use, in any event, only once. After which whoever is left will have to begin doing what I am suggesting now. It would be nice if we could, for once, make it easy on ourselves. The irreducible miracle is that we have sustained each other for a very long time and come a long, long way together. We have come to the end of a language and are now about the business of forging a new one. For we have survived, darlings.